That's a sticker. Where have you been for the last 6 months? I suppose there isn't really a reason. Life happened. I am a car builder first, and I do YouTube second. So, you know, car building stuff has taken priority, and a couple of cars have been finished and they've left. And there's another one, the Mini RX-7 next to me. That's due out very shortly as well. So that's, you know, my time's just gone on other cars. And Ross has found himself a new job. I wish him the best. I've got a new editor, Charlie, stood behind the camera. You can't see him. But now we've got another chap on board. The suspension for this has been on and off about 4 million times, or so it feels. I say that I should be pretty proficient at putting it on and off, but having done it today, I am clearly not that proficient at putting it on and off. I've just used the wrong ones. So I've got to do it again regardless. Anyway, we're going to pay attention this time. I'll put the driver's side arm on. I ended up putting the arm on the wrong side and the pickups on from the rear on the front. It's on now. The front rolls. We do have a rolling front end. Everything is still loose because I know it's got to come off yet again anyway. Nothing's like tight or shimmed or anything like that, but at least now it's together and it's rolling, we can start seeing what it looks like as a package. So it's good to have the front end done. The rear end is the next on the list. The lower control arms to the rear are present. They are the modified race car arms, and I'll do a segment on how the rear upright goes together, similarly to how I've done a segment on how the front upright goes together. Full clarity, full transparency. This has been filmed over a period of many months. Front hub going together, that was filmed sort of 3-4 months ago. There's been bits here and there that have sort of been picked up and dropped off, so if it feels like a fragmented video, I apologise in advance. From a period of nothingness, we all of a sudden have 3 full videos, and because we're on a bit of a roll with the F40, we're just going to crack straight back on with that. I'm going to get straight onto the back end, on the back end of this one. And then you should have a series of videos. We've done a video of the F40, we've done a video of my supercar that everyone asked for, and Trevor's got an update on the XJ220 as well. So we've got there eventually. That's all I've really got. I'll leave you to watch how the front end of this car went together. So this is our F40 road car upright, and I call it an upright because they call this a hub. This is an upright. This is an assembled one. I've already done this one, and because people wanted more detail, I've decided to take one apart and show you how they work. So obviously they're centre lock, they do still have studs, and that holds the brake disc on and keeps it all located, and then the 5 studs help locate the wheel as you would get traditionally, and then obviously the big centre nut. They're a bit different to how they go together to a normal hub. I haven't got a normal hub to show you, but I'll show you each part, I suppose, rather than trying to keep hold of that in case I drop it, because I will. Upper ball joint, nothing exciting about that. The upright is sat vertically, the arm is sat a bit like this, and so they just counter that with the holes already being an angle. The upright itself doesn't weigh anything at all. They're a steel sleeve, they're pressed in to the, I'm going to say aluminium, but I could be wrong, I'll have to double check that. It could be aluminium, it could be magnesium, I'm not too sure. Lower ball joint, same story, nothing exciting, it's just a ball joint, taper, again 2 bolts, but it's hollow through the centre. The damper goes between the 2, and then it actuates that way, which you'll see when it goes together. This is the hub itself, and where the wheel goes, and where the bearing mounts. It's already got grease on it, like I say, it was already assembled. So it's still greasy, and I don't want to wipe it all off and have to redo it all. And they go together a bit differently to a traditional one. Traditionally, you would have the upright body, you'd press a bearing in, and then you press the hub through, and then either a circlip would hold the bearing in and that'd be it, or your drive shaft would come through the bearing and the hub nut would hold it all together. This is the wheel bearing. It's a fair size. Bolt-on wheel bearings are nothing to write home about nowadays, but back then, you know, it's a slightly different process. This is my massive socket, so that's the nut that holds on the retention nut for the wheel bearing, and it's just got 4 lugs, so we've got a big socket especially for that nut. Fits in there a treat, goes down to a 32mm, which you can then put on the old rattle gun. So as it off and on, that's just a cap that goes on the back to keep it all clean and tidy, and that's a retention ring for the cap, and those bolts actually hold the wheel bearing to the upright. So what I'll do is I will show you how it goes together. Upright, slide the bearing on. I've already done that because it's a pain in the neck. Big washer over the back, big retaining nut, do that up. It takes a while to go on. So So I've wound that all the way down. That'll want torquing up, and then once it's torqued up, just get a little chisel in there, knock it in, and that locks it in place. You see the bearings are exposed, which you wouldn't normally get traditionally, and putting a nut on first seems backwards, but this is how it is. And then in here is a radius cut for those bearings to live. And that drops over there. And the one thing I won't do right now is put the retaining cap on the retention ring. Those little spring fingers would normally pull the cap down, keep it covered, but I'll leave it off just for now. And then once they're all on, here's one I prepared earlier. I think something that looks a bit like that. And then the only step left is to obviously put the ball joints on. They're not handed. The hub isn't handed, the retaining rings aren't handed. The only thing that's handed is the upright itself. That's how you put an F40 upright together, I guess. And one thing that is missing, I suppose, is the brake disc, which I do have. You drop over the studs, and then you pop the wheel nuts on. That holds it on. While I'm on topic of wheel nuts, if there's a machinist out there that wants to machine me some of these up, we don't have enough for the car. We've probably got enough to do 2 per wheel, maybe 3 per wheel. They're quite a simple thing. I assume you start as some hex bar stock, turn down to a round, and the thread's only on the end. That's a open bore to go over the shank of the bolt. If there's a machinist out there that wants to make me some stuff, I need some wheel nuts, I need some nuts for the top bearings. It's all been secured with temporary stuff just to get it rolling for now, but we need a machinist for this stuff. That's the front end of an F40. Do you want an interesting fact about this control arm? It's a combination of suspension. So we've got, this was from the, say Haman, however you pronounce it, race car, and it had spherical bearing in the bushes. So what we had to do is turn a sleeve and press that in to bring the diameter down to allow us to press road bushings back in. So we've got a bit more compliance for road use because it's no longer a race car. All these control arms from the race car are no longer doing any racing. And then we've got a road car damper, a regular road car hub. Pretty sure we've got a right old mix of parts here, which explains some of the complications of which you'll see as it all comes together. It's all F40. Anyone that's had to work on cars before, you'll understand it may be from the same car, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to fit. So we've got to put these pickups on first, because once the arm is within the chassis, there's no access there to pull any bolts out or put any bolts in. You can get to the nuts to tighten them, so hand tight's fine for now, but you can't get in there to slide the bolt in or out. That's how you do camber control on this car as well. Where they go in, you've got an excess of thread here. And you'll use shims, they're washers, but they're shims, and then you will space the control arm out to get more negative camber, and obviously in for less. I'm going to put the top of the shocker in first. There is intentionally supposed to be a gap, don't panic. And then the shocker actually lives in between the little forks of the ball joint, like so, and then in the control arm. Again, there's also meant to be a gap between the two. I'll explain that in a minute. Now there are shims. I'm not going to put any in right now. They live in this gap here, or that gap there. So you've got a bit of adjustment to move things around. That adjustment, forward and back, changes the caster angle. In there, again, it's just washers or shims, but they're washers basically, and that just allows it to move with the ball joint either side, and then obviously you lock it down when you've got the angle you want. So I will come back and fill this with shims later on, but for now, right there will do. I can get my upright, dunk it on the control arm, chuck the nut on, and I'll stay there. I'll put the upper arm in. There's 2 holes in each of these pickups as well, and where you position the arm changes where the roll centre is, basically how the car acts, changes the kinematics of the car. So you can alter how the car is simply by changing what hole you bolt the control arm to. So it's all fairly well adjustable. I'll pop the brake disc on for now so that the brake disc takes up the space it needs to. I'll pop the other side on and then we'll put steering rack on and I'll show you the complications I had with that. It's a manual rack, no power steering, so there's no assist on this car at all. It is as manual can be. Clamp goes round on this, the cast piece. It's the same shape as the inside of the clamp. That locks into it so it can't move sideways. And then the other side, there's nothing to grab onto. It's literally friction that grips hold of it. I'll show you the biggest issue I've got or had with fitting this steering rack. So I'll bolt it up as is. And then you see if you can see why we had a bit of an issue fitting it. Yeah, these bushes are aluminium, they're turned up. They're normally rubber, but they were nearly 40 years old, so they were about knackered. So turn up some aluminium ones, get rid of any play. There we go, nipped into place. Rack goes in, a bit more elegantly than I did, and the clamps over the top. Nip them up, that clamps the rack. Do this up on the chassis. Stay still, job done. However, there is an issue with it. The boot, not in the centre of that gap. So this boot rubs on this lip here. Obviously it'll just shred. So these bolts are massive, and you might be thinking why you got bolts that long. In here, on the chassis, obviously it's got a return lip, a steel lip, and the rubber boots are touching. So we need a slightly bigger bolts so that we're able to shift the rack forward to correct that issue. So somewhere around about there. So we need to space the rack out, basically, is what I'm getting at, so that now you've got an idea what I need to do. I'll show you how I did it. I'll print 3 out, and the reason I printed 3 out is I've got 2, obviously because there's 2 brackets. But the third one, the holes, is slightly further apart, in case my measurements were off, and I tried both. Should be right. And then the next step for me is just to mill this out of aluminium, so we've got a nice decent spacer. I won't go to the full detail of pocketing all this. It will just be a solid, but I'll show you how these fit behind the steering rack, and then show you how much clearance we've got on the steering gaiters away from the chassis. Stick these spacers behind the steering rack then, and just check we have in fact cleared it, because if I go to the efforts of machining a nice little billet spacer and find it doesn't actually clear the chassis, I'll not be overly amused. So. So these are, as we say, they're from that Hamann race car. Where they're different to an original is we have a central post at the top here, and again that's a change in roll centre, etc., roll axis and all these fancy things. Centrifugal force, as it's known, pulls air out the disc. So if you don't know brake cooling, you feed cold air into the centre of the disc. As it spins, centrifugal force pulls it out, and usually it's extracted out the wheel. It's a lot easier to do without a drive shaft in the way, that's for sure. This is one of those instances where mixing race car parts, road car parts and different versions of said road car becomes an issue. And then we can't put an upper control arm on, so we're just going to put a damper on. This comes in, not quite as severe, and then that's where the contact's made. For something that doesn't change all that often, other than bushes for service, the control arm was the easier thing to make. So we've gone with the control arm.